Hey, everybody. It is the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. Corey Seidman and Jim Salisbury here with you as always, coming off of, Jim, what was it? It was another series loss for the Phillies to the Miami Marlins. I'd say this one maybe a little more excusable because they did face two really good pitchers in the final two games. We talked about that earlier in the week that, you had Trevor Rogers and especially Sandy Alcantara on tap. And, man, Alcantara just mowed through that Phillies lineup on Thursday night. High velocity fastballs in that 98, 99 range. He was able to flip that 90 mile per hour slider for like a get me over strike one pretty much whenever he wanted to. Phillies just overmatched as they've been most times they've faced this guy.
Yeah, they don't do a good job on good pitching, and we've seen it before. He has very good career numbers against the Phillies. He got beat up in his previous outing in LA, but he just absolutely dominated the Phillies lineup. A game like that, I don't know, who should I tip my hat to the pitcher or say the offense was flat? I think it's very possible to say it was both. Vinny Velasquez has to he gets scratched from that game 20 minutes before the first pitch. And I wonder if that changed the complexion of the whole night. I saw no fight in the Phillies. I know Alcantara was good, but I saw no fight. I saw no life. I even used the word uncompetitive in my story. I thought they were uncompetitive, alarmingly uncompetitive. Is that all Alcantara, or should you guys do a better job? I think there's something in the middle. They struck out 15 times. They vaulted to second place in the majors in strikeouts. They had been like fourth, but they were number one in the National League. But they got out the old pole vault, and they got up to number two in the majors. Have struck out double digits 27 out of 44 games, have lost 4 out of 5, now are back to 500. Amazingly, somehow still hold second place in the National League East. But, there's just been so many distasteful, unpleasant things that I've seen this week, from the quality of play, the continued horrendous defense. They are just not a good defensive team. We know that. And you can see when a team is not sharp defensively. I'm not saying, and I'm not even judging by errors. I'm judging that plays a sharp defensive team makes that saves their pitching staff, that helps them win ball games. When do they make a play that, shouldn't have been made, but they make it and it really helps their team? Never. Another error last night at third base. Bryce Harper didn't pick up a ball in the twilight, and that dropped in foul territory, but nonetheless turned into a run. The error by Bohm turned into a run. Just not a sharp defensive team. Very, very troubling. And it's very, very noticeable when a team is not sharp defensively, and it doesn't necessarily have to have an E next to the name. Also troubling, they played shorthanded so much, giving Joe Girardi a short bench. I understand maybe you think, JT Realmuto only has to miss 6 days instead of 10 days. Is it really that big a deal? I think a lot of it has to do with they are so thin in position player prospects in this organization. It's very, very troubling. You put Didi Gregorius on the DL, you put Roman Quinn on the DL, and I should say the IL, and Matt Joyce. So you have 3 guys on the IL on your 40. That leaves you only one healthy body at AAA on your 40-man roster, Mickey Moniak, hitting under 200. Obviously, he's not inspiring anybody to call him up, or they would. I do believe they probably wouldn't play so shorthanded if there was somebody or a couple guys down at AAA banging on the door, but nobody is. Nobody's forcing their way here. So it's troubling that they're shorthanded. It's doubly troubling that nobody is forcing their way here. So a very not a good week for the Phillies, and amazingly, they're 500 with the Boston Red Sox coming in on Friday night, who lead the American League in wins. So good luck with that.
Yeah, that error that Alec Bohm made on Thursday night, it was a relatively hard hit ball down the third baseline, but it's a play that every major league caliber defensive third baseman makes. It's a play that has to be made, and instead it results in, a run scoring. It wasn't the reason the Phillies lost the game, but there have been too many times this season that they've gotten shaky defense out of the left side of the infield. And with Bohm in particular, it really stuck with me last night on Thursday night so after he makes that error, I think the Phillies made a pitching change. And when they came back from commercial break, the broadcast had a close-up shot of Bohm, and he just looked like he was shook up from that play. comes up in the next half inning, strikes out again to end the game. Wonder if he's carrying some of those defensive issues with him to the plate where he's really struggled all season. And you referenced all the strikeouts. He's one of the key contributors. His strikeout rate is through the roof, and that was not something we saw in the minor leagues.
Yeah, interestingly, and I don't have the stats in front of me, Corey, but so he played 44 games last year. What did he hit? 330 something? And this year he's played 44 games and he's hitting like 217. Strikeouts are up. He has the same number of home runs and I think RBIs, but just not getting the hits. Strikeouts are up. Contact's a big problem for this team. It's been a problem for Bryce Harper all year and recently as well. So, when you see those strikeouts and you see the lack of contact, that's big trouble. You're not putting pressure on pitching staffs. I mean, ironically, they had one win in the Marlins series, and it was the result of an eighth inning where they put the bat on the ball, made things happen, put pressure on the defense, took their walks, didn't strike out. Well, there's a reason that all fits together, and that's winning baseball. I'm very impressed with the Marlins. They do a good job in player development. They get guys to the majors. They did a good job of situational hitting in this game, in the series, and they come to play. Don Mattingly gets those guys to play. We saw it last year when they were ravaged by COVID, had like an 8-day shutdown, had to debut 18 rookies, mass casualties on the IL, and they still made the playoffs. And they ran the Phillies off the road in late September by winning 5 of 7 in Miami. So he does something right. And he was the NL Manager of the Year last year, and he richly deserved it. And, hats off to the Marlins, right? They come into Philadelphia in games 8, 9, and 10 of a 10-day road trip that started in Arizona, went to LA, and came back all the way across the country to Philadelphia. And they take 2 or 3 on the final leg of their of the trip in Philadelphia. I was driving home last night across the Platte Bridge, and their convoy of buses were ahead of me, and as they headed to the airport, and they probably weren't going to get in until 3:30 in the morning. But they should sleep well. That was a hell of a trip. You go 5 and 5 on that type of mileage trip, and then you come in here where the Phillies play really good at home, and you continue to stick it to them. Good job by the Marlins.
Yeah, I think the Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, they all probably feel fortunate right now to be close to 500 since none of them have really played well. The Mets have been leading the division despite all of these injuries. It's pretty incredible that they are 20-17, 3 games over, losing half their team. And not just half their team, but a lot of these guys are key contributors. And then the Phillies, at 500, they've been unable to separate themselves from that mark. They started 4-0. They haven't been more than 3 games over 500 since that 4-0 start. Real quick, just to get back to Bohm, I noticed the same thing. I went to his baseball reference page yesterday and noticed, wow, same number of homers, same number of RBIs as last year, pretty much the same number of plate appearances. And now when you look at like the totality of the 2 seasons with the 338 last year and with the 218 this year, the totality so far is a 277 batting average, 325 OBP, 406 slugging percentage. So it's a respectable average and on-base percentage, but not enough power from a corner infielder. The Phillies are hoping that develops, but just 8 home runs so far in Bohm's career in 357 plate appearances, and you need more offense to offset the mediocre at best defense that he's been showing.
Yeah, they're gonna, he's not really. It just seems to me with the naked eye, he's not doing any damage on good fastballs. But the Phillies aren't a great fastball hitting team and haven't been for a while. We've talked about this time and time again. Does he have the defensive prowess to stay at third base? Is he going to end up at first base? Is he going to end up at left field? Now you have Didi Gregorius with another year on his contract, and his range is I would say markedly diminished. Andrew McCutchen exits after this year. Does Bohm go to left field? Didi go to third base? Do you use Rhys Hoskins as a trade chip to bring in some more talent because you need more, and put Bohm at first and Didi at short? I don't know. There's a lot of fascinating balls in the air. Even with 120, 118 games left here this season. You're always looking in the future and you're always looking in the present. And I still think this can be a 500 team. It is a 500 team. This is kind of the definition of a 500 team, 2 steps up, 2 steps back, big holes all over the place. We're going to see how they fix some of these holes at the trade deadline or even before the trade deadline. But they got some serious ones, including at the back of the rotation, where now there's another issue.
Right, Vince Velasquez. So he has this finger issue, similar to something he dealt with in the recent past. Pretty surprising to see him scratch so close to game time last night. And then after the game, Vince Velasquez spoke, and he didn't seem like he was all that worried. But this is a worry. I mean, he missed significant time the last time he dealt with a finger injury. Kind of walk us through this.
Oh, so it was like I actually watched him pop out of the dugout and walk. With a nice spring in his step, about 6:30, starts walking out to the outfield to, stretch his legs and his back and do some long toss. And then, I turned my attention elsewhere. And at exactly 6:45, I see this guy as like Harper and Bohm are beginning to gather on the right field line to do some sprints. Reese Hoskins and them. McCutcheon was out there. I see this guy walking the opposite way in from center field. I'm like, who is that? I'm like, he's really walking with a purpose. And he's holding his glove in his right hand. And I'm like, is that Vince? That's Vince. Hold it. He's going the wrong way. He should be going up the bullpen steps to start firing. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he has to go to the bathroom. But no, there's a bathroom in the bullpen. So are you kidding me? And he pops right down the dugout steps. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And then I see the trainer out there in center field tapping out a message on his cell phone. And I'm like, he's got to be scratched. Next thing you know, David Hale's getting up and Vinny's scratched. It just seems like it's always something with Vinny, just when he was getting some consistency. He had this numbness in his middle finger in 2017. He only lasted 1 inning on a game on August 10th of 2017. And complained of numbness in his middle finger. I believe he complained of some like discoloration as well, some maybe even bruising or like a blue hue to the tip of his right middle finger. I remember it well because I asked him to show it to me after the game. He wouldn't show me his middle finger. It's the first time somebody's declined an invitation to give me the middle finger ever. So anyway, he had surgery on that to clear what he called a blood clot. Didn't pitch again that season. I guess he dealt with it a teeny bit last year. He dealt with it a teeny bit this weekend in Dunedin. He felt some numbness in his middle finger, the surgically fixed middle finger. And then last night felt it in the index finger. And then after the game proclaimed it a speed bump and that he's not worried. In one breath, he's not worried at all. He thinks he's going to make his next start. But in the other breath, there was no way he could have pitched last night because he couldn't get a grip on the ball. So what is it? Are you worried or you're not worried? Joe Girardi, always level-headed, said, we're concerned about it. The team is concerned about it. So, they don't mess around. They'll do a battery of tests on this guy. And would I be surprised if he makes his next turn Tuesday? Yes, I would. Is it out of the realm of possibility? No. But I think I would be surprised if he makes that start. Maybe we'll see Spencer Howard or maybe Matt Moore's back in there. I don't know. Spencer Howard has thrown 9 innings down in AAA, and they've been very, very good. He's on a big picture pitch count for the season. They're watching his bullets. Why not use the bullets here and see when they run out? Who knows? But why not bring them and take a look at them? But we'll see where they go there. But it's just another kind of a, I feel for Vinny. It's just kind of another bit of a sad chapter. He's been, for a lot of reasons that aren't always his own fault, but some reasons that have been his own fault in terms of performance and stuff. But he's just been unreliable. And last night was another case in point. So I hope he gets better.
With Spencer Howard, I mean, the Phillies obviously need him this year, and they know that they're going to need him in some role at the major league level this year. Do you think they're just kind of delaying that until it's absolutely necessary? Because there's zero upside with Chase Anderson at the back of the rotation. And you also have Vince Velasquez there, who, as we now have just talked about, there's the possibility he might have to miss a start, or miss some time. So with Spencer Howard, do you think it's a matter of like, look, we know we're going to need to call this guy up soon anyway. Let's keep him down as long as we can, or what do you think's going on there?
I don't necessarily think they're trying to keep him down as long as they can. I think it was more that they figured that until Dunedin the other day, they were getting, I guess you'd say, passable starts from Chase Anderson. And until last night, when he couldn't grip the baseball, they were getting more than passable starts. They get decent starts from Vinny Velasquez. So I almost get the feeling that Velasquez was on a start-by-start basis and, kind of ride that pony as long as it lasts. And then last night it didn't last. So, and then Chase Anderson had that tough one at the Dunedin Sunday. But, this defense, he is what he is. We know what he is, but his defense really failed him. They had guys playing out of position because they were short, and everything blew up on them. So I think Spencer needs to be here and is ready to be here. Is at least ready to take a good, solid look at the guy and see what he is. It's just that I think they were managing the situation, keeping him down, watching his innings because Vinny was giving him some decent outings, and now the opportunity is it's a wide open door for Spencer Howard to get here. I don't know what they're going to do. I guess we'll hear more today on Friday, but we might not hear more today on Friday. They don't rush out of the gate with information, especially medical information. They take their time. I mean, we heard earlier in the week Jojo Romero is going to have Tommy John surgery. 2 more Tommy John surgeries in the minor league system this week. Albertus Barber, who I wrote a story on this winter, hard-throwing right-hander. And I've also heard Nick Pivetta, another pitching prospect, has had Tommy John surgery. So, boy, not a good scene.
No, not at all. And so now in come the Red Sox, who are having a very good season. A little bit surprising. Seems like since the Red Sox won their last World Series in 2018, year by year, you don't know what to expect from them. Are they going to be really good? Are they going to be really bad? This year, they've been really good, powered by J.D. Martinez and Xander Bogaerts for the most part, 2 guys who are just tearing the cover off the ball. I was watching the Red Sox-Blue Jays game Thursday night. Nick Pivetta started for the Red Sox. He didn't pitch well. He had a 5-2 lead early that he gave away. Red Sox won that game late, but Pivetta's been really good for them. 5-0, 3.59 ERA, 50 Ks in 48 innings. He was a prime change of scenery guy, huh?
No question. He really was. It had become frustrating, I think, for the team and for Nick here. Very happy for him. I like Nick a lot. He works hard. I think he's an earnest guy. I just think there were too many voices in his head here because he always had a good arm. And he, something is clicking for him in Boston. He's not going to pitch great every night. And so far, the change of scenery has worked for him because, like I said, he's always had a good arm. How about Cole Irvin? Filling a very valuable role for the Oakland A's. And both those guys are doing it in the American League where we think it's harder to pitch because of the DH. But Cole Irvin, I think they sent him to Oakland because they needed a roster spot. They sent him to Oakland in a cash deal. And then he went out and spent $7 million on Matt Moore and Chase Anderson to fill you 4 or 5 when, for maybe a little over the minimum, you could have had Cole Irvin fill. I just really, I don't know why it's clicking in other organizations for these guys, but, and I'm not saying they're all stars, but they're certainly passable at the back end of a rotation, prevent you from doing business in the free agent market. But Irvin's velocity started to tick up a little bit last year. But I think he had trouble throwing strikes, and next thing you know, he's gone. And now he's putting it together. So good for him, too. He would certainly be an option here, I think, if he was be an option in the back of the bullpen, if he was back of the rotation, if he was still here. But again, he's not. But I guess he, in some ways, was a change of scenery candidate again as well. But in some ways, I feel like maybe they were hasty in just moving him for a roster spot. I wonder if he kind of got caught in the middle of a regime change where previous front office was down on him, got tired of him, new front office came in and maybe didn't know what they had. But he's certainly doing a pretty good job out in Oakland. So good for Cole Irvin.
Yeah, he's been even better than Pivetta. He has an identical 3.59 ERA, 5 quality starts, kept him in a lot of games. Cole Irvin's a high contact pitcher, didn't miss many bats. You could see why like a new regime would come in and not be so thoroughly impressed by him, especially considering the results weren't there for him with the Phillies the last 2 years. Jim, I want to move on to one other thing with the Marlins before getting past them, and that is, next week the Phillies have a series against the Marlins, and they're going to face Trevor Rogers and Sandy Alcantara again. It's like, do they even have the capability in between series to make the necessary adjustments against those guys? Like, are they going to suddenly come out next week and be able to touch that 98-mile-per-hour fastball from Alcantara?
I don't know. That's on the hitter. That's on the athlete, the high-paid athlete, the elite athlete, to make the adjustments and to dig deep down in his soul and muster the competitive spirit to say to himself, you stuck it in my face last week, I'm going to stick it in your face tonight. So we'll see if they have that intangible, but there are other aspects of the approach. They have a hitting coach who's going to have to dig into this stuff and stress the necessary adjustments. They have this analytics department they've built over the last 5 years that they're very proud of, and maybe they can uncover what needs to be done. So I think it has to be a group approach. And I think it would put some pressure on the hitting coach and some pressure on the analytics department to deliver the right approach to these guys. And then it comes down to the athlete. Can he actually do it? Can he do it physically? And can he do it intangibly? Like I said, can this, losing 2 games to Rogers and Alcantara and not doing much with either one of them, can that rouse your competitive spirit and help you turn the tables? But Rogers was really impressive. 23 years old, a high school kid out of the 2017 draft, 13th overall, 5 picks behind Adam Hazley. I'm sure the Phillies saw him in that draft, and they like 12 other teams didn't take him, but he is really, really impressive. Sitting up there in the press box, he's a big kid, broad shoulders. I felt like I was watching Jim Abbott. Even some of his mannerisms, his delivery is very similar to Jim Abbott. He's fastball slider. He's attacked the zone. He was getting up there in his pitch count, and Don Mattingly sent him back out there. I want to say, was it for the 8th or the 7th?
It was for the 8th.
It was for the 8th. So Don Mattingly sends him back out there for the 8th, and he allows 2 quick base runners. And I thought he might have been done before that inning, and I was a little surprised to see him go out there. Then he allows 2 base runners, and at 23 years old, takes a deep breath and rolls a double play ball. I'm thinking, wow, this might blow up in Don Mattingly's face. And we talk about this all the time, decisions managers make. Whether you call them mistakes or things that don't work, how that move is judged is by how the player executes. The player can make a manager look really bad. Mm-hmm. The player can make a manager look really good. And Rogers made his manager made a decision. That's fine. Rogers made that decision good. Rogers made his manager really look good by getting that double play ball, keeping his composure, getting that double play ball. Mattingly comes out, brings in Garcia for a 4-out save. Ball game. Boy, that was a nice pick in that draft, and good job by their player development people to get him here. I mean, we hear a lot about Sixto Sanchez and what an exciting young pitcher he is for the Marlins, former Phillies prospect. But I'd be pretty excited about this Trevor Rogers. He's actually in the big leagues doing it while Sixto is, trying to get his shoulder and his body in shape in AAA.
One of the reasons why the Phillies have lost a lot of games to the Marlins the last few times they've played them in their recent series is that Bryce Harper hasn't done much hitting in those games. He's had a rough week this week. You remember last year down the stretch when the Phillies had that 7-game series in Miami, that's really when Harper was dealing with that bad back, and he wasn't the same player he was the first month of the season. But his last 5 games now, 2 for 16, 7 strikeouts, just 1 walk, come up in some big spots this week, and a lot of strikeouts and just tap outs to first base. He did hit a ball hard last night, crushed one the opposite field, looked like it had a chance to maybe be a 2-run homer, was caught at the wall. But he just hasn't been really the same guy. And it's hard to overlook the fact that he has 13 RBIs on the season. I mean, That's obviously something that's also a factor of who's in front of you. Are they getting on base in front of you? But really, I mean, Andrew McCutchen has a 350 on base percentage. You have Rhys Hoskins, who spent a lot of time in the 2-hole, other guys like JT or Segura or Odubel. Harper just not driving in a lot of runs. Where do you think he's at right now at the plate?
I don't know. I mean, again, in the pandemic world, we really don't have access to the clubhouse. Haven't had a lot of extended talk with him. Occasionally, in the Zoom sessions we do, but something doesn't look right. He looks a little dejected to me. He mentioned that ball he lined out to left field last night. I mean, he barely made it to the coaching box before he took a right to the dugout. You're right. Something just doesn't seem right. Maybe it's that shoulder. He came out of that game last Saturday night in Dunedin with that sore shoulder. Was it Friday night or Saturday night with a sore shoulder? I don't know if there's more there, but he played through some sore back last year. Is he playing through something again? Maybe, because something just looks a little bit amiss to me.
Yeah, just think about all the body parts the Phillies have dealt with this year. Bryce Harper's shoulder and his face and his wrist, and JT Realmuto's thumb and his wrist, and Didi's elbow, and Gene Segura's quad. And I mean, the one thing the Phillies have avoided is like a disastrous starting pitching injury. I mean, yeah, Vince Velasquez was scratched from the start, but Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Zach Eflin, they've been able to make their turns. And you have Aaron Nola going in the series opener against the Red Sox against a mediocre lefty in Martin Perez. This shapes up as a game the Phillies should win. But with Nola lately, it hasn't been automatic that when he goes out there, you're expecting a W.
No, he hasn't, to me, looked like there was the shutout, which he was great against St. Louis. But like I mentioned, something looks off with Bryce Harper. Something looks a little off with Aaron Nola to me. And it's probably the pinpoint command. When he's really good, he can hit a gnat in the ass from 60 feet, 6 inches with, quality stuff. And it just hasn't really happened. It just seems like he hasn't had a good feel for his sinker. Some days he doesn't have a good feel for his breaking ball. We talk about all the time, everything doesn't click in one night. The starting pitching, defense, and clutch hitting doesn't come together. And when it does, it looks really good. It just doesn't seem like everything has come together. The stuff, the command, the control on one given night for Aaron Nola, other than that shutout of St. Louis. Tonight would be a good night for it to happen. It's an interesting matchup. Dombrowski won a World Series over there, then was fired the next year, I believe. And now he's back in Philly here running this team. And I think he did bring JD Martinez to Boston. He's having a big year. He's re-signed, signed Bogarts to an extension. He's having a big year. And their current GM, Chaim Bloom, is a Philly guy who was interviewed for the GM job when Matt Klentak got it. It was a product of that Tampa Bay organization. He's off to a pretty nice start up there after taking some heat from the media about stripping things down. We thought they were going to kind of be on the sidelines for a year or two, but they ain't on the sidelines with 27 wins in the American League East. So Phillies better come to play this weekend.
Yeah, it's a lot of challenges ahead for the Phillies. After that 3-game series with the Red Sox, 4 on the road against those pesky Marlins, followed by 2 in Tampa Bay, which is not an easy proposition at any time for the Phils. So, we'll see if they can get on a little winning streak here and separate themselves from the 500 mark. It's been difficult to do since the first week of the season. He's Jim Salisbury. I'm Corey Seidman. Thanks a lot for listening to the Phillies Talk podcast, and have a great weekend, everybody.